World building can feel overwhelming, especially if you don't know where to start as an aspiring concept artist. In this video, I'll break down the pipeline that studio concept artists use to create impressive worlds and show you how using the same system can help take your concept art to the next level. By the end, you'll have a clear framework to follow in order to confidently build your own equally impressive worlds. So let's get into it. Welcome to the channel. This is What I Art. My name is Jayden and I'm a concept artist who's been creating fantastical characters and worlds for games. On this channel, I provide my insight into concept art, design, and methods I use to create unique worlds and characters. So let's start with stage one, what I'll call the blue sky phase. At this stage, everything is wide open, and for many artists, it is the most exciting stage of development. It's where idea makers, writers, producers, directors are looking for concept artists to make art that they can use in making a pitch to sell towards investors. You can think of this as the R&D phase as well, where nothing is set in stone, and what you're wanting to do is produce art that gets people excited and makes them want to see more of your world. Usually this is where a handful of senior concept artists or general concept artists are brought on to create keyframes, cinematic visuals, in-game screenshots, and other impressive, highly polished, impressionistic, moody type art. At an individual level, this stage can be really helpful. You're more than likely already sold on your own idea, and even if you're not, this will still provide a good foundation for yourself and nail down the type of world you're trying to transport your viewer into. The work at this stage, unlike maybe when you're working in production and needing to sell an idea to investors, doesn't need to be as polished or as refined, but it should be able to communicate to you before you begin your project what kind of world and mood you're trying to go into it with. Especially if your end goal is just to create an environment or a singular prop or a character for your portfolio, going through this step can help you better nail down the mood and atmosphere that you're trying to portray to your viewer. And it should still answer the questions that your viewer will go into your piece with. Let's take a look quickly at some blue sky phase of Horizon Zero Dawn and one of my new favorite games, and I'm sure a lot of people's new favorite game, Expedition 33. We'll start with this piece and some of the other pieces of Horizon Zero Dawn, but as you can see in this one, they're hitting all of the key things that you'd want in your blue sky stage. You want to make the viewer, first of all, interested in knowing more about the world while covering the narrative beats that have been given to you or prompted to you. You want to make sure that you're hitting all of the narrative points that are key to your world. So if you know Horizon Zero Dawn, just to surmise if you don't, it is a game in which ancient people or post-apocalyptic people who have gone back to ancient technology are re-inhabiting this world and fighting these robot dinosaurs. That's really the premise of the game. So if you look at this piece, you can see there are those key elements of post-apocalyptic or some ancient civilization that has been overgrown or overtaken, and that structure plus the figures in the front that are onlookers to this space help communicate what the world is about, maybe some key narrative things of the world that was or will be in the game. And the lighting and scenery also conveys a mood of serenity and peace, but also a level of mystery. And you can see that it's quite impressionistic. There's a lot left up to the viewer to interpret. It doesn't explain the function of the area, but it does sell that mood and sell the world. And quickly at these next ones, we have some of the dinosaurs, which also you can see are extremely impressionistic, but give you a vibe of what these creatures could be and how you'd interact with them and what their role would be in the world. And you can tell that by their ocular lenses, you can tell that by the materials that they're made out of. It's all there to sell you on the idea that these are living creatures that you'll get to interact with. Another big piece is this big overlooking of these giant dinosaurs with these satellites on their backs. And it's selling you on this idea of what is this world of dinosaurs and ancient people and why are they there? What is happening? Why is this person on this metallic or chromatic horse? And it does that all while conveying a mood of calm and serenity, which contrasts with these dinosaurs that are in the world. But it definitely makes me, and I'm sure many people, excited to know what role these dinosaurs play in the world or what this person is doing here because they seem so out of place. So it gives you that impression of what the world is that they're trying to make. Lastly, we'll look at this piece for Expedition 33, which I think surmises the entire mood and atmosphere that they're going for in their game. There is extreme like darks and lights that are expressing this beauty or elegance, but also combined with the characters that are in there, a high level of mystery, and maybe it's slightly unsettling given that their forms are all broken up. But this tells you something about the world that they're making and is a very strong visual of what this game represents and what visual direction they're headed in. And take note of the way that they are making the art. What is it trying to express? What mood are they selling, and how are they making it so that you're interested in their world? And take those key, and your portfolio will really stand out as interesting. But again, this is what everybody wants to do, the amazing stage of like key visuals and interesting cinematics or whatever it is. But it is something good to take note of for your own projects so that when you move forward with your world, you can feel inspired similarly as these pieces inspire the rest of the team going forward. It's the job of a concept artist to sell people on an idea or make people excited to get to know something or to see something along with its function. But at this stage, we want to focus on those painterly skills, on the mood and atmosphere skills, things that are less tangible than just technical ability, which obviously you need to have, but won't sell people on wanting to know more about your world. So at an individual level, you may not be creating these giant expansive pieces, or you may if you would like, but for me, I spend a lot of time making smaller projects or smaller elements of a world and expanding out on those, particularly like characters or creatures, which I enjoy. But to understand the world and also capture its vibe or what I'm looking to encapsulate in my future designs, I create these large mood boards or large image boards that help ground me in that world so that moving forward, everything that I make should be able to be placed in that world comfortably or make sense when I combine the visual elements to place it in the world. So you can see here that there are these ideas of organic forms and organic shapes. There's a level of like hippiness with the clothing or the outfits. And so the basis of the whole idea is this university of craftsmen or these designers that together with spiritual guides or things, they create these unique items that can produce magical effects. So I have here images of craftsmen, images of this organic hippie kind of vibe, which I thought was interesting, of boho, combined with these university ideas and what would a international or universal university look like. This is maybe at an individual level something that you can do if you don't want to get into making all these large scale pieces to act kind of like your blue sky phase, where there's a lot of room that's open for exploration, but at the same time you've now created the boundaries for yourself of what your narrative or what your story or what your game will look like when you combine all these pieces. As you can see here in this piece, this is the first character I created for this and acted as my like exploration of this world combined with these visuals. And on the right, you can see how those visuals inspired the design and how it developed. This isn't necessarily. This acts kind of as my grounding point for what I'm doing moving forward, but it also kind of overlaps with the demo design, which we'll get into next. Stage one is all about setting the tone at a big scale. It's about creating large and interesting and polished pieces that can make viewers and investors excited. And at an individual level, it's the opportunity to create the clear tone and mood for your own worlds moving forward. At an individual level, it can help create key visuals and nail down the main mood and atmosphere that you're trying to build for your projects moving forward. Next, we'll look at how that big vision will turn into something more structured in stage two. All right, so once you've gone through the blue sky phase, we move into the demo. For a portfolio project, building out a small preview of your world in a more detailed manner. That for a portfolio project, this stage entails all similar things, except at an individual level, you may not be creating something that needs to be immediately translated into a game world, but everything should still explain not only the story and mood, but now the function. And the established design language that you've created can be used for yourself as a guide in the stages moving forward. Many aspiring concept artists skip this step. And while you can get varying results by just throwing any design language you want at your world, establishing one beforehand and then following it can make you more consistent in creating cohesive worlds. Making sure to establish your own design language will help you immensely in making sure that your world appears cohesive. Okay, so let's look at this example real quick of another piece that I made for this university world that I discussed in the previous stage. In this world, there are these mythical creatures that are assisting these craftsmen or are part of their daily lives and serve as kind of spiritual guides or inspiration for the crafts that they create. So that's an essential part of the narrative, and so I needed to create a creature that could act as that basic building block moving forward. To expand the narrative, I needed to make this creature seem mythical, spiritual, and so in the explorations that I made, I explored this goat kind of creature combined with a buffalo, given that goats have this spiritual nature or this spiritual identity in some cultures. They can also be kind of like mystical or devilish, but they have a lot of mystery about them, combined with buffalo, which are these large creatures and hefty forms, which gives a sense of majesty when combined with this pale white fur or cream fur. So there are a lot of inspirations that went into this to help explain the function of this creature or explain its role in the world or how it might interact with people. And this accompanied with more expansion in the narrative of how this creature interacts with humans and how they like put special ornaments on them or ties on them because they like revere or respect or love this creature that they interact with. Basically, this demo stage at an individual level is making those expansions of the narrative and hitting the points that you may have not been able to hit with your previous explorations. Once the narrative and design foundation are built from the previous stages, we can move to stage 3, expanding concepts. This is where the world building really starts to open up. At this stage, concept artists are now tasked with creating new and clear functional visuals that all fall under the same design language that has been established in the previous stages. Essentially, you can infinitely churn out new concepts. Using the foundations you built in stage 1 and 2, your world becomes something that you can build at a small and large level without losing cohesiveness. This is because all of the heavy lifting was done in the previous stages. At a smaller scale for a portfolio, this is where you can really start acting as an explorer in your own world. What would you want to see in your own world? What characters or environments or locations are necessary for your narrative to be pushed forward? What has been left unexplained that you can expand on in your story? The infinite curiosity that comes out at this stage can seem like a treasure trove of ideas. So take your pick on what you find most interesting and develop it using the previous stages as a foundation, and your portfolio will reflect all the hard work you put in developing it in the previous. So similar to the last step I discussed with the goats that I created, I want to explain a little bit more about how I expanded from that point to create new places, visuals, and specifically in this case, vehicles to expand the world and help explain some things that might act as interesting narrative points to cover in a story or in the game or places of interest. So I wanted to create this kind of moving shop that students or professors would stop at between classes and between lectures, somewhere that friends or peers would recommend that you go to get the best meal in town or something. And that narrative idea of something that I would want to explore if I was a part of this university helped me think up this idea of a moving convenience store of some sort. To sell the function of this, I combined the visuals that were already established in the previous stages along with imbuing it with the narrative ideas of something cozy or something rustic in some type of way, whimsical, combining these ideas so that a viewer can not only understand that this is in that same world, but what function and what role it plays in the world and in the narrative that's being created. You can see that there are like whimsical colors or shapes that are slightly distorted and this wobbly and cobbled together shop gives those vibes and can help the viewer understand some aspects of the worlds that they haven't gotten the opportunity to explore just by viewing these characters or this creature. And this was very easy to do because I had already established the visuals in the previous step. The development wasn't looking at everything that's across the board and how I could incorporate all these different designs that were on my mood board or design sheet, but how do I transform the designs and ideas that have already existed into something new. Lastly, I want to look at stage 4, which is post-concept, or in some other words, production support. At the portfolio level, this can be looked at as the presentation stage. It's demonstrating to clients or viewers that you have the skills necessary to be able to be easily put into a pipeline. Demonstrating these skills in your presentation, like turnarounds, texture callouts. The goal at this stage is to remove the guesswork for 3D modelers, VFX artists, texture artists, animators, and everybody else in the pipeline. At an individual level, this is your presentation, demonstrating to potential employers or to viewers that you have the skills to remove the guesswork for those down the pipeline. That means creating turnarounds, animating your designs, creating a breakdown of your textures, or anything else that would remove any difficulty that future people who look at your work would have in translating your work into the next stage of the process. You can think of this stage as making sure that your handoff is as smooth as possible so that the rest of the production team can make your concepts turn into reality. So looking at some post-production examples, here I have a really simple design that I made of this tentacle robot that acts as a searcher in a game, or someone that's trying to find the player and stun them with its electric tendrils. And to demonstrate this and what role it plays in the world, I added these extra little animations on this sheet so that in theory, if this was to be animated or this was to be made into some sort of game, I am providing visual examples of how this creature moves so that people aren't having to guess how it would express itself in its movements. Here's another sheet of a different design of this merfolk king, and I have these breakdowns of all of these different elements that were added to the piece. And while these don't act as texture callouts as much as just item callouts, they can be used at an individual level to explain where you got your ideas from so that your viewers understand that you are developing your designs with intention and with thought. But at the same time, if you wanted to make texture callouts, you could go a little bit deeper and not only show these examples of where you source the items or the item ideas, but the specific textures that those items have and place them in a similar style. Here is another breakdown of the same design, but a different iteration. And I'm breaking down all the individual objects that are going into designs so that anyone who comes after me in theory would be able to just take these patterns or take the outline of the design and be able to take it to the next stage of either making it a model or iterating on it further. But making sure that like the knife or the patterns are explained clearly can be a really big help to people who come after, because your design may be hard to read all of these small individual elements and how they interplay or interact, showing the like small seams of how they overlap or what they look like at a bigger scale can be extremely helpful, because creating these types of 3D models off of a design take a lot of work and can be extremely difficult, and as you can see from them, very complicated. So making sure that you are providing those details at a blown up view or a turnaround of them of some sort to explain how they would look in 3D would be immensely helpful in streamlining the process of creating these types of complex models for games. Making sure to present your work with these key features will make your portfolio stand out from many other concept artists who may not understand their role in the previous stages and how their role affects those moving forward in production. While this stage may not entail more world building, so to speak, it is something important to consider as you present the world that you've made to potential employers or viewers. Post-concept or production support is all about preventing fires before they happen, providing the team with detailed and functional designs. Together, these stages take an abstract idea and make it into a solid world. Anyways, if you like this video and want to see more, subscribe down below and click the bell icon so you can get notified when I make future videos. This will be the first one up, so there won't be much to see right now, but anticipate in the next couple of weeks to get that blue sky video going. Hope this breakdown can help give a clearer idea of how using this system in your own workflow will help you build stronger worlds and stronger portfolio pieces. In future videos, we'll be breaking down all these stages in more detail, and so next video we'll be breaking down the blue sky phase, giving you more insights into how I approach it personally and what are things you can do to make your blue sky phase successful. Hopefully there'll be maybe a real-time video attached to that so that you can see in real time how I take one prompt into a semi-finished idea that I can roll with for the second stage. Anyways, that's it for today. Peace.